making some content now on the bipinnate wattles, just on the edge of this bushland reserve. Bangor bypass is just there, and there's a couple of properties here, but there's this beautiful bushland patch in here. There's this really genuine bipinnate wattle here on the edge. Now, I don't know if it's local, being right on the edge of the bushland. You certainly don't find it in the intact sandstone gully forest that's in there. I've just gone in there and done a plot. It's a long way in, but there's some beautiful sandstone gully vegetation. But this is the edge, and this is one of the bipinnates I don't see very often. Well, it's sort of the one I see the least most, I would say. But I know some areas in New South Wales where you can pick it up. I've had it in the Hunter Valley. I've had it down around Nowra as well. And I wasn't expecting it, but here it is. It's not in flower at the moment. And when you look at the foliage, it's got a bit of a Paramentensis look to it. That's what I sort of link it to. You sort of walk up to it going, it looks very Paramentensi. How'd we say that? Paramentensis-y. It's another nice big one here above the car. Not in flower, but that doesn't matter. I did collect one the other day, November, which was in flower, but this one isn't. There's no sign of buds on it either. But it's, you know, they're getting up to, that one over there is right up to 10 metres tall. But then you get the foliage, and it doesn't matter at all that it's not in flower. And the thing to note on this one is the interjugary glands. Going to try and focus that if I can. And look what that's doing. 3 there, well separated. 2 there. Got 3, got 3, got 2, got 2. Sort of all over the place. Just check out a couple more. Because if this is what I think it is, yeah, here's a good one here. Just bear with me a second. If I can turn that one over. You're going up to 4 interjugary glands. There's 4, 3, 4 there, 4 there. And I've seen this guy put on 5, and that might be 5 there. Look at that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you can see there's no really jugary glands. They're all interjugary. Pretty much interjugary. And if I can get those leaves out of the way, you see what I mean. There's 5 there as well. Let me sort my foliage out. Beautiful. And that makes this guy Acacia filicifolia, which I guess means leaves like a filicia. So you won't get Acacia decurrens or Paramentensis doing anything like that. If you think it's Acacia mearnsii, the interjugary glands are very different and they don't go up to that number. And Parva pinnula, that's got, you know, smaller pinnules, more clustered. It's a more hairy beast. It's sort of furry.
This guy's glabrous.
It sort of reminds me of decurrens. There's sort of no hairs on it at all that I can see. Maybe with a hand lens there might be some fine hairs, but it's got it's sort of got the ridged stems that decurrens has. It's got the ridged stems, maybe not as prominent as decurrens. And the foliage really does look like Paramentensis. I mean, you could get some Paramentensis looking like this, but it's just not going to have those really numerous interjugary glands. Well, I've never seen that on Paramentensis anyway. There they are again. Pretty cool, eh? And it's a real cool thing about filicifolia. So you might want to one day compare it with Parva pinnula and mearnsii. Remember, mearnsii is very glossy green, but mearnsii and Parva pinnula, they've got more condensed pinnules, I find. They're just more condensed and more compacted and smaller. Parva pinnula meaning small pinnules. So, whether these trees were put in as part of any sort of Bangor bypass revegetation, I'm not sure. Like I said, they're definitely not in the bushland, the intact bushland, which is in the middle of this block here. It's got a real weedy edge. And I guess I should show you what the trunk looks like when they get to there. This would be sort of maximum size. Yeah, it's nice and grey, a bit mottled. Remember, Parva pinnula, it's got a lot of blue in the trunk. Just a nice grey colour. Paramatensis tends to get a bit darker than that, and Decurrens tends to hold its green for a long time. It's green trunk, but eventually it changes colour as well. But this is really pale. It's a real beautiful trunk. The tree's probably been here quite a while. Anyway, that's probably enough for Acacia falcifolia. If I ever get the flowers, I'll add them in. But all I do is go straight for those leaves and those interjugary glands. Alrighty. Just adding these little tidbits on the back of these videos, additional information, just so we cover the whole lot of the species. So calling this the Acacia bipinnate series, where we cover the bipinnate ones. Yeah, so Acacia falcifolia, it gets up to 14 metres high, genuine tree, or what we still might call a small sort of, a tree on the small side, these wattles, but gets to a genuine height. And you saw that grey smooth chunk there. It's usually on sandy soils. So it's where I've seen it, and that's how it's described online. I'd agree that it's typically a sandy soil species. I've seen it in Sydney sandstone gullies, especially in the north. I've seen it on sandy coastal vegetation in Nowra, close to the water. And I've seen it in the Hunter Valley, for example, on sort of sandy deposits. Where I've seen it in the Hunter Valley is that Warkworth Sands woodland. I know that's been heavily impacted, but I've seen it in that vegetation. It's mainly coastal and tablelands distribution in New South Wales, as it's far south as Bateman's Bay. It extends north into the central and northern tablelands, and when it gets up that way, it tends to move away from the north coast. So that's sort of interesting. It's not really on the north coast, really, you know, coastal areas close to the beach, for example. Maybe it gets replaced by other species there. And it does get out into the central western slopes. So that would sort of be the Hunter Valley area, as far west as Mudgee Dubbo. It just gets into Queensland, only just over the border, which is interesting as well. But there's a photo of it in flower. Deep golden yellow flowers. And that it'll do that, you know, spring, summer, just depends when you see it. The one I was looking at wasn't flowering yet, but probably doing this in summer. Here we've got some sort of glaucous branches, a bit of glaucous hue on them. So they might get that as well. Just a repeat of the chunk that I got. That was the chunk that I got. It's going to be very different to the other videos where you see Acacia paramatensis and Decurrens. It's a very different chunk. And that's just the distribution of herbarium specimens on Australian Virtual Herbarium. Bateman's Bay down here. And you can see how it sort of moves away from the coast as it comes up here. So we don't have a lot of records here on the coastal areas here for some reason. Maybe, yeah, it just gets replaced by another species. But into the northern tablelands and out here as far as Dubbo, if these records are to be believed, and they're natural occurrences. So that's the distribution there. Just getting into Queensland here, probably around the sort of Stanthorpe area. And a lot of our New South Wales species do that. They get into Queensland around this area here, and they some of them tend to peter out. So there's probably some sort of geographic barrier here, I'd imagine, yeah. So that's falcifolia. And I'll put this table in at the back of every one I'm going to cover. And there'll be a few more bipinnates as well. But these are the 6 sort of ones you wrestle with in the greater Sydney area. So I've tried to put in this table which summarises everything. Just with Felicifolia, jugary glands, yes, but they're irregular. And just note the interjugary, 2 to 5. So that's a real big clincher for Felicifolia, as you've seen. It's this column that's really important, I think. This is the one that sort of is the most crucial in this table, but it's just that high number of interjugary glands. But we'll keep going through this table at the end of every species. Alrighty.